Well, good evening, everyone, and it's finally here. Seems like forever after the last game of last year, but the 2024 edition of the Rejoice Christian Eagles football has arrived. Hello and welcome to the Rejoice Christian Eagles Coaches Show. I'm Bill Bush, joined by my wingman, Mark Kirk, and of course, head coach of the Rejoice Eagles, Brent Marley, and as always, Todd Whitten back there behind the camera and the controls. We're coming to you live. Schaefer, and right up the middle goes Noah, and he busts through and touchdown! Back to pass is Cale, looking over to his left. He got his man there. That is Tristan Willis, and he may be gone to the races. He makes one man miss. He's down to 5. Touchdown! Rejoice Christian Eagles, as Tristan White did a lot of that on his own, making several men miss.
Well, good evening and welcome everyone to the Buffalo Wild Wings Rejoice Christian Eagles Coaches Show. I'm Bill Bush, joined by my wingman Mark Kirk, head coach Brent Marley, and offensive coordinator Casey Willis. We are broadcasting live from Buffalo Wild Wings here at 9623 North Owasso Expressway here in Owasso. And we certainly appreciate B-Dubs being our Coach So sponsor, and come on up and enjoy some of the best wings in Owasso. I mean, there's a reason they're as big as they are. They serve good wings, and Hunter and his staff, I guarantee, will take good care of you just like they do us. So come on up there, and, I mean, you can come up during the show right now if you live close enough and catch the end of the show. So,
For sure.
Coach, well, you've done it. You've run the gauntlet and come out on the other side with 3 wins over Pecola, over Panama, and then last week against the previously undefeated Hartshorn Miners. Obviously, there's still a couple of good teams left that we've still got to go out and play, but this has to be the toughest 3-game stretch of the season.
Yeah, it was, looking at the schedule coming in, we knew that was going to be the stretch, right? I mean, the district schedules, the way that works is you draw them out of a hat at a meeting, and we just happened to get, 2 really tough ones at home. I had to go to Panama, like you said, but it was a front-loaded draw, right? You don't know how teams are going to shake out. Some of the teams have to play tougher games here towards the end, but we had those 3 right after Haskell, those 3 in a row. And so, thankfully it worked out, but we're not by any means done. On paper, you still have 3 games left. You could lose 3 district games on paper.
Something tells me you don't play it on the paper.
You don't play on paper.
You play it on the field.
You play it on the field. And so you've got to be ready week in and week out coming up. And I know we have some people, on our schedule left that don't have the records like maybe the people we've played already. But the challenge for us is if we want to be who we want to be at the end, we have to continue getting better and improve each week and not play down to competition. And there's some things about our competition, like the team we play this week, that they do some things good on offense. And so we've got to get better and be ready to play. And
congratulations, because of the body of work that the Eagles have had, especially over the last 3 weeks, and previously number 1 ranked and undefeated Fairview's loss to Hooker, the Eagles are now ranked number 1 in Class A1. And just like you said, now we just got to do the work to stay there. How does the team feel? Ask you, Coach Willis. How does the team feel about that number 1 ranking? I'm sure it had to have come up. It's not something that you can hide. No. They've got to be a little stoked, I would think, about it.
Well, yeah.
And how do you temper that?
It's kind of mixed feelings, and we addressed it. But I actually showed these guys on the way here. The Oklahoman has us ranked number 3, so that may feel a little better. No, it's a good thing. I told the coaches in the coach's office, you'd rather be ranked number 1 than 41.
Right.
So it means you're having success, but nothing is given to you because someone ranks you number 1.
The season doesn't end right there, does
and
it?
Nobody cares. And now all it is that people really are looking to knock you off if they think you're number 1. So, but it is good because people in the community and our school, they can take a little pride in that and say, I know we're number 1. Owasso's number 1. Lincoln Christian down the road's number 1. So
some good football they play here.
You got to go very far around here, and people are excited about football. So it is a good thing, but again, we got to it's there, and now it's gone.
Yeah.
We got to move on.
Yeah, and again, they don't give you the gold ball just because you're ranked number 1 in the newspaper, in anybody's newspaper. So
There's always an old saying, don't read your own press releases, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, the
100%.
first thing I text the guys when I saw the article, I said, like Coach Saban says, rat poison. I was like, man, don't start thinking about this. But no, it is a good thing.
I told the boys today after practice that what was in the paper today, tomorrow will be at the bottom of a bird cage. So.
There you go. Well put. Well, just a tremendous job once again by the offense and defense and special teams. And as good as our offense continues to be, with Cale not being 100% the last few games, we're still putting a lot of points up on the board, averaging just over 41 points a game. Coach Willis, when we're healthy, we're going to be lethal. I mean, we're not 100% healthy right now.
Right.
But when we are, you've got some good problems.
Oh, yeah. Trying to get the ball to all these guys that can, do things with it. It's a good problem to have. I know there's a lot of coaches that would trade us. Again, like I told the guys, I like our chances against everyone. Offensively, I feel like we can score on everyone, but if we don't execute, we're not very good. But when we do execute, we can be really good. So that's something that, we can get excited about offensively. Kind of with, a couple bumps and bruises to some guys. Cale had the hamstring a little. He was full speed today at practice, so he's looking, like he's his old self. But it's kind of given us a little chance to see some things from some other guys, which you never know, because in every game there comes some time where what you normally do maybe doesn't work. They can take away something. So what else can you do? And we have a lot of options.
And by him going down, and you happen to be forced to do that, you've had some guys that are no longer freshmen.
Oh no,
they played enough. They played enough minutes now to where they're sophomore, like Camion. It's nice to know that Camion can come in and do the job. It's nice to know that Mojica can come in for Noah and do the work there.
Right.
But you're right. I mean, that because of that, it's kind of one of those blessing in disguises to where it kind of forced, because otherwise Camion probably doesn't get those number of snaps at quarterback, so you don't know exactly what he can do under pressure.
Sure. No, and like we've talked about the whole season, we got a lot of guys that are really competitive. Even those young guys, they're used to winning. Yeah. And they expect to win. And when they get out there and compete at practice, and they want to be out there, and they want their time, and which is good. It just makes everybody better, makes this a complete team when you got everybody contributing. So
I think it's great, and you never know with these injuries happen. You never know what kind of lens you got to put on, what you're going to be looking through,
exactly.
And to know you've got all these different configurations that you can play if you need to, just makes it that much easier.
Right. Well, and it gives confidence to guys, because I know there's been years when you lose one player and then somebody young has to play, and everybody, even the guys around them, are kind of like, oh, goodness gracious, we lost so-and-so. And now it's, they have confidence in the next guy up, which is a good thing. But we want to stay healthy. We want everybody.
Stay healthy, for sure.
Well, and we're talking about offense, but on defense, Coach Eckel has got this defense playing. They're playing. You went from the Pensacola game to where we give up 40 points, I think, to the last two teams. You're giving up 6 points in each of those games. You gotta be liking where you're sitting right now with your defense playing like they are, along with your offense.
It definitely, if you can keep people from running the football, if you can play defense against the run, then you got a chance any year.
Make people one-dimensional.
If you can score some points a little bit and you can stop the run, you got a chance. And the team that scored the most on us in district was Pensacola, obviously. We stopped the run. We didn't stop the forward pass. We forgot about the forward pass part of it. But
what? You mean they can throw the ball?
But, in this game, and I don't know why it's this way, but in the game of football, if one team rushes for 300 yards and the other team rushes for 0, but they throw for 300, and the team that rushed for 300 throws for 0, the team that runs for 300 usually is going to win. It's just because time of possession and the way things go. And so, anyway, it's been a great job. Coach Eckel's done a tremendous job getting them ready. Coach Johnson on the back end and Coach Warren up front with the defensive line. Those guys have they work well together. And just the plan going into Hartshorn was probably the most simple plan we had all year. We had 2 calls. That's it. These 3 formations, this is the call. These 3 formations, this is the call. That's it. And maybe that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, people watching, but it's simplicity.
Yeah.
And now you can fly around, hopefully, and
fly to the ball. Absolutely. And I started saying a minute ago, I mean, as good as the offense has been playing, and they have been playing very, very well, to me, the defense puts them in a position to be able to make those, have the opportunity to make those plays and score that. So I think, for me, again, of course, I'm kind of defensively minded. I really look for that, and I think that the defense has just played so outstanding all year long.
Well,
and they're really clicking right now.
Yeah, and we gave props to Coach Eckel, but there's guys out there on that field. Those players, and I know we'll talk about them here in a little bit. But
right.
the players, just they have bought in, and we have more kids. I think right now this year, you've mentioned it, Bill, on the show. Just looking at the stat sheet of just used to, we'd have a couple kids with 8-9 tackles. And then it's just maybe 1, 2, 1, 2. Now you look down the stat sheet, and there's 6 or 7 kids with 7 or more tackles.
Yeah, makes our job hard.
Yeah, it
sitting
does.
up there in the booth trying to come up with
a player of the game on
player
defensive side because he's got so many guys that could easily claim it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and how do you get to the flow? I mean, the flow had to be really tough because of the number of flags. I don't know that I have been part of a game where there have been that many hankies tossed on the field.
It was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot.
And Mark and I even said, we're not saying that they were wrong in throwing the flags. I just never been – I mean, it's almost like they were looking for and throwing anything that they – whether it had anything to do with the play or out of the play. It was so frustrating because you would go 2 plays and a flag.
Well, for me, I hate to see it whenever the officiating becomes part of the game.
Right.
It should be around the game, right? Keeping everything within bounds. But whenever it's really kind of taking over control of the flow of the game, to me, that's too much.
Yeah, 100%. Well, looking at a recap of the Hartshorn game, first quarter, Hartshorn won the toss and does like what Coach Willis wishes he could do each time when he wins the toss. They elected to receive. And then after an onside kick, they were able to drive all the way to the Rejoice 18-yard line before penalties and a sack drove them back to the Eagles' 44, where they had to punt it away. And on 2nd and 10, from their own 19-yard line, Cale tossed it out to Z, where he hauled it in for an 89-yard touchdown for our big player of the game. And then Duncan Andrus added the extra point. And on their third possession, the Miners were once again able to drive it deep into Eagle territory when they were stopped on 4th down at the Eagles 25, and we've seen that a lot on the defense this year to where we how many times have we seen the teams drive down to the 30 or inside?
A bunch over the last 3 weeks.
And we stop them right there and go the other way. Well, after that stop, that was it for the first quarter. So once again, low first quarter scoring, 7-0 at the end of the first quarter. Second quarter, the Eagles went on a long sustained drive from their own 19-yard line and scored when once again Z caught his second touchdown pass of the night from Cale for a 6-yard touchdown. And he actually had a guy in the front. And so Coach Willis, whenever I saw that play, I was thinking, he's open right there in the front. And then Mark's going, but he's even more open in the back because he had 2 guys that he could have just thrown it in there to.
Yeah, actually, I'm always looking at the first guy. And
yeah,
it's an easy throw. It's an easy throw right there.
And then I saw the ball go over his head, and I was like, oh, my goodness, I hope somebody's there. All right, yep, we're good.
You got a big target back there. So we're only leading at that point 14-0 at half against a team that we know is able to put a lot of points on the board. What's the strategy coming out in the second half? I mean, this is such an important game with the district lead on the line. You're only up 14-0. You know they can score. What are you telling your players at halftime? Both we'll go first on the defensive side.
Well, we win the game if they don't score. We've got 2. They don't have any.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we felt as a staff, I think mutually, both sides of the ball. I mean, Coach Eckel's frustrated about a few things that here and there, like at Panama, but hey, they're 0. But I think as a staff, we just didn't feel like we played very well first half. No. We could play better, that we could do better, even better, and especially probably offensively, getting some rhythm and flow, which would come, and it's kind of been neat how we've navigated that process the last several weeks, I just feel like halftime's been good to us.
Yeah. And on defense, I mean on offense, what are you? Because again, we're only leading 14-0. We had some opportunities that, again, penalties kept us from moving.
I felt we couldn't get in the flow of things, and like I told Kel, his decisions were correct. We just, as an offense, were not executing. So it wasn't like we needed to change anything. We just needed to make the plays because that's what they were giving us. So it wasn't – we couldn't abandon what we were doing. And there were some things that we needed to clean up, and we showed the kids on film of that. But more of it is you just had to get in that rhythm and play with confidence. And we always tell them at halftime that first drive is the most important drive of the game.
Yeah.
And when you get up 3 touchdowns on somebody that's struggling offensively, they're kids. It's
they start
tough.
pressing. They got to press.
Everybody's got a point where it's kind of like, oh no, and because you've been there.
Yeah.
And I knew if we could get up 1, maybe 2 more scores, then kind of you break through that wall, and then points just kind of come in bunches at that point. So.
Well, and coming out of the second half, and you were talking about that first drive. That first drive in the second half, well, not in the first drive, but on their second possession of the second half, Hartshorn was able to take over at the Rejoice 44 and score on a 44-yard run on I don't know if it was a busted play or whatever, but anytime you let up a 44-yard run, but all of a sudden it's a 14-6 one-score ball game after their 2-point attempt failed. Then the Eagles answered that score when on 1st and 10 from the Hartshorn 47, it was once again Marley to Okufuluezi on that connection, a 47-yard pitch and catch for the score. And the PAT was good, but I also noticed on that play right before that, their number 1, I forget his name, but he tackled Noah, and after that tackle, I think he got hurt because whenever he went out to try to cover to help cover, he pretty much went down. I don't know if he got a concussion or if something happened, but they at that time they lost. I mean, because he was like one of their better defenders.
Oh, he's their best
player. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And which doesn't help them. Obviously helps us. But Mark and I were talking. We want to beat somebody with their best. We don't no excuses. The Eagles were back in business again after Camion Comptonero made a great over-the-shoulder interception at the minor 43-yard line, reverse field and returned it 20 yards to the minor the minor 23, and then after a holding penalty made it 1st and 20 from the 33. The offensive line opened up a great hole for Noah, and he took it out from 33 yards for the score. And again, the PAT good. And your third quarter ended with a 28-6 lead with the Eagles on top. They went up 34-6 when they got great field position after forcing a Miners punt from their own 16. ZZ very alertly. I mean, I know we always say,
stay away
red, get away. But the ball bounced up in the air, and he thought, I can't let it drop. Yeah, nobody there. He picks it up and returns it to the Hartshorn 20, which led to an 8-yard touchdown run by Noah for his second touchdown of the night. The PAT failed. And then on Hartshorn's ensuing possession, Wade White had a great night, by the way, on defense. Leveled the quarterback who fumbled, and it was recovered by Jet McCain at the Miners 31, and the Eagles went down and scored when Cale took it from 8 yards out and just bowled his way through there on that touchdown run with a TD. And then the Eagles close out their scoring 48-16 when, now being quarterbacked by Camion Comptonero, was able to march down the field, aided by a big 27-yard run by Camion, and scored when Jason Mojica put it in from 1 yard out. So, I mean, what was a tight game, really tight to start the second half, really turned into a blowout in a sense, with a 48-6 win.
Turnovers helped that.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. The interception and the fumble recovery.
You get the ball back and get in their territory.
Which, you were talking about the Pocola game. Mm-hmm. That's really was our Achilles heel in that game, was the turnovers. I mean, you don't turn it over in the end zone, they score, all of a sudden,
It's a different game.
It's a whole different ball game. Well, looking at some of the offensive leaders passing, Cale was 10 of 18 for 169 yards and 3 touchdowns, and then he rushed in for a touchdown. and he was our offensive player of the game. And then you had ZZ with 5 catches for 162 yards and 3 touchdowns. The rest of the team had 6 catches for 16 yards. So,
half of his was on one play.
But you know what's interesting about that? If you look back at the game before that against Panama, I don't think he had but 1 catch.
Yeah.
He may not even had a catch, but he goes from not even being on the stat sheet to just blowing everybody else away with 162 yards catching. So every week it's somebody that steps up, and we've talked about that before. Rushing, you had Noah, who just continues to he only had 40 yards against Pocola.
Right.
Comes back and has 18 rushes for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns. Camion with 9 rushes and 63 yards. Jason Mahika, 5 rushes, 23 yards and a touchdown. And then you had Kale with that 7-yard rushing TD. So, I mean, it was kind of what you were talking about, Casey. I mean, each week you can hand that ball to somebody, and if Z is not having a good night, well, then you know that, okay, well, I'm going to go out here to Ben Nichols, who had a good night the week before, very quiet last week.
Or Blake Whitten, all of a sudden hanging over here, nobody's looking out for him. You never know.
And that's what I talk to offensive guys, our quarterbacks. A team can take away something, but they can't take away everything. So find what they're giving us and just take it.
Yeah.
Take it. Sometimes people don't know in that first half, they were stacking the box and making it very difficult to run the ball. Okay. So Noah was getting, and he didn't have a lot of carries in the first half. It was kind of slow, but they were giving us some outside throws, which ZZ scored on the one, but we missed on several others. Right play, right throw, decision by the quarterback. It was just poor execution on our part. And then in the second half, we actually, we made those plays. If you can't be one facet in today's game, or you're going to run into somebody that is going to match you and they're going to stop you.
Yeah. And also, and we have a viewer question. They're wondering about bowling last week and Seth getting his first win. He's also wondering, Coach Willis, if you might have peaked too early.
They just let anybody on the internet, don't they? Well, hey, when you set the bar so high at the beginning, if you don't win every week, I guess people think that you're just, you're not in it anymore. But
they may quit too. If you don't let somebody win every once in a while, they're not going to play.
Right, and I'm still finishing in second place. So let's calm down and. We're going to try to get back on top this week, just so I don't have to hear this.
Mark, what about that defense?
On the defensive side, again, it's like these last 3 weeks have been really, really fun to watch because there's been so many people involved. Watching the guys fly to the ball, gang tackling, really good open field tackling as well. Everything just really seems to be clicking. Cade Schaefer's just kind of tearing things up. He's in there every week. This week, our player of the game, defensive player of the game, was Jet McCain with 8 tackles, 3 solo, a fumble recovery. But again, it's hard to pick because we had so many guys that had big games. Cade again, 12 tackles, 7 solo, 1 for loss. Karsten Lotze, 9 tackles, 5 solo, 2 for loss. Wade White, 8 tackles, 6 solo, 1 sack. Luke Schaefer, 7 tackles, 6 solo, 2 pass breakups, and tackle for loss. Camion, 6 tackles, 3 solo, an interception, a pass breakup. Carter Cree, 6 tackles, 3 solo, and another tackle for loss. Maverick Gwynn, 5 tackles, 2 solo, and 1 sack. We've had more sacks and more tackles for loss in the last 3 weeks than I think we've had the entire, maybe even all of last year.
Right,
I don't know. But it's just been really fun to watch all that going on. What's your thoughts? First off, when you said something a minute ago about we can always, we weren't perfect. We weren't better. We had if I ever had a coach tell me that we played perfectly, I probably would have just dropped right there on the spot. So I think from a football perspective, there's always room for improvement. But I think right now the defense is really playing well.
They are. No, the last stat you read a bunch of names there, and the last one had 5 tackles and a sack.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good night, So
last year,
we're not even counting the guys that had 3 and 4 tackles.
Exactly. Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll be here all night reading off the names.
Well, and the good thing is, the first 3 or 4 names you read were all D linemen. So
exactly.
D linemen are making a lot of tackles at the line of scrimmage and tackles for loss, and you're probably having a pretty good night defensively.
Yes,
for sure.
We had some big. Like you said a minute ago, Wade White really stepped up. Of course, Cade Schaefer has been just every game has been on
He
par.
puts on clinics.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
He flies to the ball.
Flies to the ball,
yeah.
relentless pursuit. Camion had a great night. The pick was huge.
Yep.
Just so many of those guys. Maverick Gwynn, like you mentioned. Jet, I mean, Big Jet, our senior Jet's our big guy,
Yeah.
But Jet's always a presence in there and just a leader up front.
Yeah.
And he ran a guy down from behind behind the line.
Yeah.
He ran that guy down from
He's
behind.
a skill guy at heart.
Yeah, and Karsten Losey. I mean, Jet McCain, Karsten Losey, Wade White, Luke Kirkpatrick. I mean, all those guys rotating in up there. And I know I'm leaving a few off, but they're fast. They can run.
Yeah.
And so speed is definitely a great thing to have.
so
The pass breakups, what a lot of people don't know is it's a stat that just says pass breakup, but that easily could have been a touchdown because we play man-to-man most of the time.
Yeah.
And if that guy doesn't make that play,
there's a lot of green
that
in
could
front
be
of him.
7 points every
Exactly.
time.
and
So-
one of the stats that we don't put on here is pressure.
Right.
And,
Court-
the
I'm
alignment,
starting- yeah,
because
we
that
talked-
all- we've been getting a lot of pressure on quarterbacks, and again, I don't think we've ever entered a game where we're the biggest line.
No.
We're usually always undersized, but somehow we use our quickness to be able to get pressure, to track
Get
guys
penetration,
down,
yeah.
100%. So what's been the biggest change since the Pecola game? Because I mean, we give up 40, and I know there were some untimely turnovers, but only 6 in the last 2 games against some really high-powered offenses. What's Coach Eckel and what's the team done to turn that around?
Well, I don't think we've really done anything. I think we probably just stayed the course. We saw a Pecola team that we knew we had to stop their tailback and stop the run, and then they kind of went to plan B. And if you do a good job stopping plan A, it's really, really hard to be really good at stopping plan B sometimes if they're talented at plan B.
Right.
And I think they caught us by surprise that game. And I'll just say it what it is. Panama and Hartshorn were not able to throw the ball. And on film, they were not able to throw the ball near at the level that Pecola was able to on film and in person. And so, and then like you said, number 1, when he went down, and he made some plays on us. He made some catches, even on ZZ.
Yeah.
He challenged Z. Those two got together after the game, and I was standing there talking to number 1 about his injury. And Z came up, and I said, man, you gave him the first fits of this season. Like, Z hasn't let anybody do anything on him, and Z was very complimentary to number 1. It's like, man, you're a dog. Like, yeah, you're making me work over there.
Dog is a
And
good thing.
It's a
Good
good thing.
in this context. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
good.
Well, so you would think upcoming is against the Shoto Maize Wildcats, and you would think that after 3 games we'd get a breather going on the road against Shoto to take on Shoto Maize. But as you and I have talked last week, these Wildcats are better than what their 7-0 or the 0-7 record shows. I mean, they've played some teams really close in the first half of their games, including Pecola last week. Is this one of those trap games for the Eagles? I mean, could this be a trap game?
Well, I think our biggest opponent is always ourselves.
Exactly.
You can't beat yourself first. And after the Panama game, we told the boys in the locker room that we felt like that was really a game of not getting in your own way, right? And just sometimes you got to keep from losing a game. You don't necessarily have to go out and win it. Just don't lose it. Like, don't turn the ball over. Don't do anything dumb. And, so this is one of those games where we just have to play our football and play hard and not play like we're playing someone that's 0-7 because they're a very good 0-7 team. I mean, their first 2 drives against Pecola on film, they take the ball right down their throat, 70-yard drives, I think, around 70 both times, and go down and score. And it's no problem. And so, we've got to be able to come back and counterpunch that and not let them do that to us.
And so what do we know about their offense? I mean, what do we need to be doing on defense to keep their offense in check? Like I say, they went down the first.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a big tailback, number 20. He's physical. He runs like Noah Goodwin, but he's heavier. Number 7 and number 10, they're 2 wings. They run the flex bone, wishbone type offense. I mean, it's full like it's like what Army. It's like a service academy. Mm-hmm. They are going to ground and pound. We've seen 4 passes in 94 plays on 2 films.
Wow.
So and then 2 of those passes were halfback passes by number 10. It wasn't even their quarterback. So we got to stop the run. Got to. And they've got some tricky schemes. Their wing sweep and wing reverse and the trap play and counter and quarterback counter.
Got to stay home.
Got to stay home.
Triple option.
Triple option, yep.
And so on defense, what's their defense look like? What are we going to be? Are we just going to run our stand? Because I know we say it all the time. We're just going to run our offense.
Well, yeah. Well, I can't install a new one in 2 days, so we're going to have to run what we got. But, I try to get as many guys involved early in a game, so I'm trying to focus on that, getting a lot of touches for a lot of different guys. I feel like we operate better that way. But really, you got to make possessions count. The way they operate offensively, if we don't score – and we give the ball back to them, the first quarter might be over before we get it again.
Right.
So you got to make those things count. And because of the way they operate, obviously, if we can get up a couple scores, hopefully, it's very difficult for them to score quickly. They can. I mean, they got the athletes to do it, but we can't go with empty drives, and we can't start out slow.
Right.
Because I'll tell you this, I shouldn't speak for them, but I've been on an 0-17. I played on one my senior year in high school. If we were playing a district champ or whoever that's trying to maybe be a district champ, it would be our game of a season.
That's
if we
how you
could beat
redeem
them.
your season, exactly.
You better believe it. It's
Yeah.
the biggest game. So, and if you let teams hang around long enough and they get confidence and more confidence, you're in a dogfight.
Yeah,
So
100%. Well, Eagle Nation, I hope you make it down to Shoto.
Good food out there
this Friday. Yes. So yes, go to the and I know that I kind of got burned by one group of folks, but I was redeemed by another group of folks whenever I gave a recommendation to go eat somewhere there down by Panama. But you go to the Dutch Pantry there in Shoto, you will not be disappointed. Take a pie home.
Yeah.
It's run by the Amish. If you want to spend another 10 minutes going down to Locust Grove, and you'll have a buffet that's just incredible at the Country Cottage. Can't go wrong. But more important than anything, get to the ball field and outnumber the home fans. That's the one thing that you can do is show up and show these guys just how much you appreciate all their hard work as they take that number one ranking on the road. We really need to show up and show.
It does mean it means a lot for these guys to have everybody show up in the stands and create that atmosphere, especially if you're going to somebody else's location, right?
Yeah.
Bring your pit folks with you. It does mean a whole lot. And it's not that far a trip.
And guys,
it's not that far a trip.
Use it as a date night. Take your wife to the Dutch Pantry and then say, hey, let's go catch a ball game afterwards. You can use any excuse you want. Just get there. But again, they deserve your support, and so we hope you make it down. Let's match the hard work that these guys put in by doing a little bit by just driving. It's a 45-minute drive.
Not bad.
It's just right down 412. Just
nice weather.
Hook a left on Highway 69. Yeah, going to be a great night. And so, Coach Marley, any last thoughts before we are done for the night?
No, just enjoying what's going on, just trying to soak it up and enjoy this season, having a lot of fun.
Yep, Coach Willis.
Yeah, like you said, come out. We wait all year for football season. Well, we're in it, so you ain't got nothing else going on Friday night. So
That's
come
right.
out.
You shouldn't have anyway.
No, there is nothing else going on.
These 10 or 12 weeks, 13, 14. It's football season.
I tell you, every time a team comes to our place, I know I'm not lying. I look over at the visiting stands, and I see how many people came to watch them. If there's not many there, I say they don't stand a chance.
Right. Well, and that's what we've outnumbered so many home teams when we go.
Been great.
Absolutely.
And so let's keep that up. And so, what was it, Todd? Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Hartshorn traveled
Hartshorn
very
traveled well.
Yes.
Hartshorn traveled very well.
Yes, they did. Well, and if you can't make it, we want you to, but if you can't, Mark and I will certainly bring you the game here on this same Rejoice Athletics TV.
And we're not going to say
channel.
anything about penalties ever again.
No.
Nothing about penalties ever again. So.
Yeah, buttons, whatever. So, anyway, for my wingman, Mark Kirk, for head coach Brent Marley, and for offensive coordinator Casey Willis, and, of course, our engineer Todd Whitten, I'm Bill Bush, and you've been watching the Rejoice Christian Eagles Coaches Show on this Rejoice Athletics TV YouTube channel. Good night, God bless, and go Eagles!